you don't really know what to say to someone when they've lost a family member, a friend, or a dog, or a relationship. But we're gonna focus a little bit more towards like losing someone, losing a family member, losing a pet. You don't really know what to say besides. So grief and grieving, it's a very complicated matter. It really is. As much as the best thing you can say to someone is, I'm sorry for your loss. Or do you need help? How can I be here for you? How can I support you? Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Embrace Your Curiosity. I'm your host, Claudia. It's finally here. The videos are here so that you can put a name, a face, well, not a name, but a face to the voice you've been hearing for the past 4 episodes. Funny thing is, I've mentioned before, like every time I start an episode or I step behind a camera or I start talking, I get like super nervous for no reason and I sound completely different than my actual person. But I'm not gonna zoom in into those issues. Okay? They're not issues, but hi, baby. My dog is here. So, guys, I'm just gonna go ahead and say also, since this is the first episode, I would love if everyone just come out and just like just watch the video, like and comment. Only nice comments, of course. Like only healthy environment here. If anything, if you don't like, if it's not an environment for you, do not leave a comment. Okay? You don't have to be here. You ain't gotta be here. Anyways, so today, one of the topics that we're gonna cover and one of the topics we're gonna talk about, which is something that obviously I think everyone has been through, and I can say for myself that I've experienced for the past 4 years, 3 years or 4, but a friend or family. We're gonna talk about our favorite topic, grief. Something that grief, it's a it's a feeling that everyone has experienced. It's a life situation, circumstances that everyone has been through. You've lost someone or lost something. Grief doesn't have to mean that it's just the loss of someone in your life that's special to you that died or significant to you that died, but it could be a loss of a friendship. Grief could be a loss of a pet. It could be grief can carry so many stages and so in different aspects of your life. It doesn't have to be like grief in general is a big ball of so many different factors and different things, right? So today, yeah, that's the topic we're going to talk about. And I did do a little PowerPoint, so I'll probably be looking forward here and taking some of my information. But I think it's interesting why I say this before we dig in. And I know that I feel like I'm going straight into it. I want to say, like, I would love if this was a live engagement conversation, because everyone can just put their input or give their input about grief and how they experience grief and how they've dealt with it and process it. Because obviously we know that everyone is, each and every individual that lives on this earth that we know of are different and we process different. Our thoughts are different. Everyone doesn't grieve the same way, doesn't grieve the same way. Some of us, when it comes to grieving, we don't talk about it at all. And we prefer to shut everyone away and isolate ourselves and figure it out and just learn how to go through life, because that's how we cope, right? And some of us prefer to talk to someone and just engage and be around people to offer us support and keep us going. And some of us do other things, right? So everyone is different, but this is such a good topic because I remember when I lost a close family member to me, and I had a friend who also lost a friend who committed suicide. And we were talking about it. It's so crazy that you don't really know what to say to someone when they've lost a family member, a friend, or a dog, or a relationship. But we're gonna focus a little bit more towards like losing someone, losing a family member, losing a pet. You don't really know what to say besides okay, I'm sorry for your loss. I mean, of course, like, it's better to say something than to say nothing. Sometimes, for other people, it's best to say nothing. Yeah, like, you don't, there's nothing, I don't care how much you've experienced it. Well, there are some people that are better with words than some. But for me, like, I don't know, I haven't experienced that much close death or some lost. Like when it happened to me, because I honestly thought in this lifetime, not I never thought. It's just that in your head, because when you haven't lost a close family member or someone dear to you, you think it's so out of reach that someone that you are so close to can die, right? Until it happens to you. Then when it happens to you, even when you have that experience, you still don't know what to say to the next person who lost a friend, who lost a husband, who lost a parent. You still have no idea what to say. So grieving, it's a very complicated matter. It really is. As much as the best thing you can say to someone is, I'm sorry for your loss. Or do you need help? How can I be here for you? How can I support you? So we're gonna start with that. But yes, before we get started, I know I said it already, but please do go and like and share the video. This is gonna be our first video, so I'm excited about that to see how it does. And also leave comments and based on like the topics we want to get engaged in, and then like the people that we want to bring and talk to. I mean, as much as this is a solo podcast, I love to talk to other people. Like initiate like before I started my podcast, I wanted to do it with someone else, but obviously. So, like I was saying before in the first few minutes of this episode, one of the questions is understanding the grief. It's not a question, but more of a statement. Understanding the grief of losing a loved one. How do we understand and process, which is what I was saying for everyone else? Like I would love if people would. That's why I said conversation like this should be taking place. A lot of those conversations, because you really don't know what to say to someone when they've lost someone. Even to yourself, like even if you've experienced it, you lost a family member, a friend, or a pet, whoever, right? You still don't, because the way you process the thought of losing someone or you grieve someone, you still don't know what to say to the next person who's lost someone or something or a relation or a person, you still don't know. So what do you say? That's really, what do you say to someone that lost a loved one? How do you even understand it? I mean, you can only base everything you feel because of personal experience. However, just because your personal experience, how you grieve in the past, or you're grieving along your way, along your journey, that doesn't mean someone else is doing the same way or can do the same way, right? So we know that a lot of the time, like when you lose someone, trying to understand it also depends on the circumstances or the relationship you have with the person or the thing or the pet or your pet, right? Like if you were really close to, because you could lose a family member and it doesn't seem so. It depends on the circumstances of your loved one's death. Oh, so it's basically how much you spend time with that person, how close you were with that person, and two, how long have you been anticipating the death of that person? Meaning, if the person has been sick for a while, like how long have you been prepared to lose them, or how long have you been making room in your life to remember that they're not going to be here anymore, right? How long have you been prepared? And two, another thing as well too, no matter how much you practice or you try to prepare for someone's death, you will still experience it in a different level. I will tell you that. It doesn't change anything. I mean, the only thing I would say is that you can find strength in it. Like I did for myself, because I remember when I lost my sister, right? And for some reason, I don't know what it was. I know that when people, like a lot of people have the experience, like when you know someone has been sick for a while, you start to prepare. I mean, it's initially what you would do, what I would say a normal human being would do. Not even normal, but like majority of the people would do, is just to start to prepare yourself. Me, I prepared myself emotionally because I knew how big that would be. I didn't know that she was gonna pass away for sure, but I felt it coming because she's been sick for a while and she didn't want to deal with it anymore. She felt like it was her time, right? But I don't think she felt like it was her time. I think she was so tired of dealing with the pain, she would rather give up than pray for, like, not even just want to continue, because I mean, you lose faith when you've been in a hospital back and forth. You never really have a chance to just enjoy life because you're constantly in a hospital because you're so sick. And they're constantly diagnosing you, but you don't know what's going on with your body. They don't even know what's going on with your body. So I think when I was in school and that was happening, like, I just figured, I was like, I'm just emotionally gonna, because I've never experienced anything like that. I've never lost someone so close, or a family member that's so close. I don't, like, yeah, a relationship, like a sister or brother. I've never lost anyone that close to me, right? And then I lost my sister. So then I really felt like the pain. I really felt the pain of losing an actual family member. Like, people that passed away, that's been a part of my family, I always considered my parents, my mom's family. Okay, if you're not a cousin I've been close to, or an uncle that I've known for a long time and I grew up around, you are my mom's family, you're not my family. Or, you shouldn't say that, but like, honestly, just not. I pick who I pick as my family. Like, along the line, I don't think, I'm losing track here, but yeah. So yeah, the emotion that you experience all depends on how close you were with that person, the relationship you had with the person when you lost them. And then yeah, so it all of that determine how heavy the impact is, like how heavy the loss is. What are the impact of losing that person? So what the steps to healing? It doesn't The stages of grieving, we're gonna talk about that, but like, we can talk about, we all know that there are 5 stages to grieving, right? Or when yes, there are 5 stages to grieving, but you don't have to go through all the stages all at once. They shift. You have you have denial by head, you have denial, anger, sadness. Okay, so yeah, we already know the 5 stages to grieving. In denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance, right? And you don't go, not everyone goes through the same stages in order. There's no such thing. And then two, the grieving is such a weird thing, because you could be okay today and you could be okay for a whole month, like consecutively, like 3 months, a month, 1, 2, 3, like you could be okay for up to 3 months, and then the fourth month coming up or the next month coming up, a memory, a smell, a reaction to something that you guys both like or enjoy, being around family member that reminds you of that person, will automatically make you feel so emotional. Which is like, it comes out of nowhere. The feeling, the emotion just rush in, and you don't even have time to even think about it. Even just going through your stuff, washing dishes, or listening to a song that you guys like, I mentioned, that just make you start crying. So the stages of grieving it's not in order, and it's never in order. You just go through them unexpectedly. Okay, so like I mentioned, that grief doesn't always move through stages. I've already explained, like, each stages come at its own time, and it comes unexpectedly. Denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. Acceptance, I feel like, is always the last one, of course, because then you find, like, and to this day, to be honest, sometimes, like, I think how I accepted acceptance was, I would walk around my apartment and I'm like, I cannot believe my sister died. And I would say the name and I'm like, this doesn't even sound right. Does that even sound right? And then being so young, to lose your sister at a young age too, and her dying at a young age, it just feels so unreal because all you think about is, I just remember the other day she gave me this, or she bought me this, or she brought this to me, or she did this for me. And I'm just, and you know, one thing I did too, I'll say it later, but I mean, I can say it now. What I did when I felt like she was going to pass away, I went to all her like, I found her collage or like pictures that she's taken from Facebook or Instagram, and I took a screenshot of them and I saved them because I'm like, maybe this is the last time I get to see those pictures because I'm not so much on social media, or like if her website or whatever her account is getting get taken down and I don't get the chance. So I took all the screenshots and I'm like, I'm gonna save them so I can remember. And when I feel sad, like I'll go through it. You know how you make yourself feel sad? You just go through people. You go through someone you lost, or pictures, or you listen to sad music. That's what I did. Like, and I used to love listening to sad music, and I'm like, no wonder why I was so depressed. But I stopped listening to sad music because really it just makes you sadder. Like, don't do it. Do not do it. How do you heal when it comes to losing a loved one? The loss of a loved one or loss of a pet, right? Do you ignore your emotions? Do you bury them and pretend that they're not there and just carry on with life? You know how they say, oh, depression is some people say depression is a luxury, right? A lot of people think sitting down and feeling your own feelings and processing your emotion is a luxury. I mean, to be honest, I'm only saying this in this way. I can understand why people say this, right? Because there are a lot of people who don't have time to process their emotion because the next day they gotta get up and continue with life, right? And some of us, we get lucky, we get a break, or the job that we work in, understand that mental health is important, taking time to yourself and grieving, giving you time to grieve is important, right? But some people don't have that, unfortunately. And I will not say depression is a luxury, but I will say I can understand and see why some people will say that. I can understand it, but I don't think it is. Like, not everyone, I mean, people don't ask to be depressed. No one asks that. I mean, but if you can, hey, one of the ways that you can process your emotion and process your grief is to allow yourself to feel. It is very important with everything that you do in life and how you can make it easy for you, whatever you're going through, and especially when it's, because I say this, and I've been saying it to myself a lot, that one thing I've noticed is that life is not hard physically, right? For me, what I process. Physically, life is not hard. What I found life is hard is emotionally and mentally, and the mentality that we carry around. When you go through life and you think a certain way, and most of the ways you think is negatively, of course, every turn point or corner you turn, definitely, what are you going to get? Negative things. But if you change the mentality of how you view things, then you shift that mindset, then of course you might get something different, right? So allowing yourself to feel and allowing yourself to go through the emotion, allowing yourself to process your thoughts and everything so that you can understand what you're feeling and being able to find a solution or a way to manage that or to cope with that by reaching out to someone, by reaching out to your support system, or create a support system for yourself if you don't have one, or seek one out by finding ways to relieve yourself from certain aches, pain, because losing someone is not just an emotional experience. It can also be physical as well. You carry pain through your body, through your bones, and we know that, right? So allow yourself to feel is very important. Mourning the process can trigger a lot of intense feelings and emotion, but if you ignore it, it only gets worse in the long run, right? Yeah, it may feel like, okay, right now I feel okay. Right now I can shut this feeling down, but you express those things down the line in a different way, especially if you have, well, not especially, but how you communicate. It can come out that way. It can come out in different ways you communicate. If you're sad and you're feeling all that emotion and someone comes in, although they don't deserve the outburst you're about to give them, they're only, and you might find that the way they're communicating to you is nagging and they're only expressing how they feel, but because you've never had time to mourn and to process, you express that the outburst comes out and someone else end up to be at the end of your bundle of emotion that you never processed, you never mourn, right? So a lot of people that doesn't deserve our anger or aggression end up getting it, right? So we have to take care of ourselves. Even if you don't think that processing an emotion is, I don't have time to process, I don't have time to grieve. Yes, you do. You do. Take time to yourself. Go walk. Go do whatever it is that works for you, but in a healthy way. If you need time to do it, that's fine. But remember, everyone else is feeling you. Like, everyone else is feeling your vibration, your energy. And when you are holding on to a lot of things, people can feel that because they get it in other ways, right? So we say that it eventually finds a way to come out in a different way. It just, so you have to actively try to face your pain. Okay, another one, like I was saying earlier, prepare for painful reminders, right? A smell, a lotion, a picture, freaking conversation, parents. But see me, how I grieve. I don't know how I grieve. I've had one experience of losing a very close loved one. So this was my first experience, and I don't want to experience any other, but I know that it's life, and we are going to have it's stages of life. It's either you outgrow someone or someone else, not outgrow, but outlive someone, and someone else outlive you, and you don't get to see it, right? But that was my first one, and how I processed that very first one, I was so proud of myself. Back then, I was like very religious. Not very, that's too much. That's not true. I was a religious person more often, more spiritual than more religious than spiritual. And I remember when my sister called me to give me the bad news, my other sister called me to, which we don't like to hold bad news to ourselves because it's easier to share it than to keep holding. And she called me to give me the bad news. Before I left, like, I asked God to guide and shield me. And from, who to shield me from the most? I don't even think I felt for myself. More than anything, I felt for my parents. Losing a child, it was something I don't think I've ever seen anyone around me who ever lost a child. Like, and I didn't know how my parents was gonna deal with, especially with my mom, because she was so close to her. It broke my heart because I didn't know how she was gonna deal with it, and I didn't want to see it because it pained me so much. And I'm like, I cared so much more about how she felt than I felt at the time because I didn't have any feeling. Honestly, for me, I'm such a bubbly person. It takes time for things to get to my head, like for me to actually sit down and say, "Oh, this is reality. This is really happening." Like, I really don't have one of my sisters anymore. It didn't come to it, like that thought didn't hit. I drove home and I didn't cry. I didn't cry at all. Even when I got the news, I was like, did I cry? I think I did, but I don't think I did. I don't remember. But when I got home, I cried when I saw my mom. She was so broken, and I didn't know how. But even then, to be honest, let's move on, right? So yeah, prepare for painful reminders. There's always going to be something or someone that's going to remind you of that person you lost, right? And you can see them in everyone, in every conversation, in every person, with something that they say will remind you of that person. Me, I try to find joy out of everything that I do, right? And I don't even intentionally do it because even at the funeral, I was laughing. I have a really dark humor side. Like, it's even then I was laughing because I find humor everywhere I go and everything. Honey, if I pass now in my funeral, my own funeral, my spirit will set aside and start laughing at the whole entire process. That's me. That's a me thing. So yeah, just prepare for painful reminders. Some days are better than most. Yeah, such as a picture, a photo, or music. Simple memory can trigger a wave of painful emotions again, and it feels like you living the process, you living the situation or experience, or you're experiencing the death of that person all over again. So, and then another one, right? And it's important because my experience, right? I think also another thing that was so painful for me is when I realized that I was raised with seven siblings, eight to seven siblings, seven siblings and a half, right? And I don't think we ever been alone until I left for school, and everyone like the older we get, we started to separate a little bit, but we never like not separate as much, right? And when I lost my sister, the only I think at the time what I was thinking, I was like, I cannot believe she died alone. I don't know if I was expecting her to be. I don't think I was. It's not that I was expecting her to be with someone, but more it was just thought. It was just the thought of her being in a morgue by herself. She had no one. She didn't have my mom to hold her hand. She didn't have us to be there for her or my sisters that was there. My sister and brothers that was there in the hospital with her. She was just there by herself in a morgue, cold. Even thinking about that, like I'm not sad or anything, but yeah, like that was that hurt so bad. Just I had the thought. I kept saying, I cannot believe she died and she didn't have anyone with her at the morgue. No one was there to take care of her. Like not any of us. And I kept thinking of that, and I was like, the funny thing is, this is all just this is gonna be a memory. It's just, the sad thing. It's not funny, but the sad thing about it is after the funeral, I'm like, this is all going to be a memory. Everyone's gonna move on with their life, and they're going to forget her. And and I'm like, we're going. The hardest thing is we're going to forget her, and it's not true. It's not. Moving on doesn't mean you're forgetting that person or you're forgetting that thing, that animal, right? That relationship. You can find ways to continue forward with your life, but it doesn't mean that you get to leave them behind. I mean, if you want to, of course, there are people who have pictures who carries something that reminds them of the thing they lost or the person they lost. Yeah, but that's throughout life. And some of us, like, I've seen people who, well, I haven't seen, well, I've seen people who lost someone and they carry it throughout their whole entire life. Every conversation they bring it up, every situation they bring it up. I try not to so much because I don't like to dwell on the dead or the past, but absolutely, me and my sisters will get around and we start to talk about we start to have conversation about past memories, and we'll laugh about our memories and remembering her, and we'll say the things that was wrong too. What she did wrong, it wasn't just an angel, no, because we're all human beings and we all have experiences. Yeah, like moving on doesn't mean you're forgetting someone. You're finding a way to make space for them, but also learning how to live without their presence being here. But they're still here with you because we're all one, right? They're still here with you, but it's not that you're forgetting them. You're just it's just another step in your journey, but just also remembering, carrying their memories around with you. Okay, another way to heal from losing someone or family member relationship is to also seek support and have a community around you. Friends, family you can talk to, someone that you can not experience it with, share it with, and that they can provide that safe space for you. And seeking support can be reaching out to therapy, getting a counselor, finding a friend who somewhat can offer that support that you're looking for. A lot of us don't do well by ourselves when it comes to dealing with pain. So if it's the best option is to finding someone that can support you in that area, you should. Because the word, like, I don't know, every funeral they tell you this, but if you think losing someone is so bad while it's happening before the funeral, wait till after everyone leave you alone. Wait. The worst part is when after the funeral is done, the wake is over, everyone goes home, the body is buried. I know it sounds, oh my God, it's getting so deep. It's when everyone goes home and everyone closes their doors, then your thoughts really set in. So do not be alone. Try not to be alone. Be around people that love you. And if being alone is what works for you, I get it. I get it. Okay. Yeah, so I guess like seeking support is also take care of yourself. When you're grieving someone, it's easy for you to neglect yourself, right? You neglect your health, you neglect your welfare. But stress, trauma, and intense emotion you're dealing with can impact your immune system. It can affect your diet, sleep, and it can take a heavy turmoil. Take a heavy toll on overall your mental health and physical health. Bella, I can see you eating. So try not to neglect yourself. Manage your stress. Find ways to cope. Healthy ways to cope. It's very important. So seeking a support system, like I was saying earlier. A lot of people that like to spend time in nature. I love nature. I love hiking. I love hiking. People that are spiritual, people that are religious, pray if you need to. A lot of people find a lot of support in seeking God. If that's something you're interested in, go. The people that are spiritual, meditation, finding a group that knows how to manage stress through other forms of practices. And then certain yoga stuff too also releases like stress, and it releases like body emotion. Working out, if that works for you, do it. That was also one of my coping mechanisms as well. I think grief is also another topic along the way we probably will touch base on, because it's so broad and it had like everyone, like I said, everyone experiences different. I would love to have a guest to talk about it with more, but I know that's enough for me. I've shared a little bit of my experience. Like I said, I never ever in my life want to feel that way again, ever. But if I do, I hope I handle it better than I did last. I don't want to, but if that is the case, that comes the case, and that comes to be a point of my life, well, I do hope I do better than I did last, because grieving is just, everyone experience it. Just find better ways to cope with it. Find healthier habits. Healthier ways to deal with it. And to be honest, if you do it, if you like, at least what I will say is, no, nothing else. I don't think so. I don't think I have anything else. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to Embrace Your Curiosity. And I know these topics are like, I'm not gonna lie, I was so engaged. I love that kind of topic. I love that. But yeah, give me topics and things that you guys want to talk about a little bit more. But I think grief was a good one. I really wanted to talk about that because it was so personal to me. And maybe one day I'll open up a little bit more if someone else comes here, or me by myself, right? When I get when I get a schedule and I feel like I'm good to go, and I'm open-minded to sharing conversation and information about my life a little bit more. But yeah, like, thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for continue to like and comment under the comment section, and see you guys on Monday. Bye.